tell me about your favorite books. Welcome to the Left on Red podcast, where we talk about the books you love. I'm very excited to be starting this podcast. This is the first episode. Full disclosure, I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm very excited to hear what the people have to say. With me today, I have my good friend, Jade. How are you doing, Jade?
Oh, fantastic. So excited to talk about books.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. I knew that I wanted to have you on the podcast because we both share a deep love for books.
Oh, yeah.
The first time that you and I even hung out, the first thing you showed me was your library that you have in your apartment, right?
Yes.
And so when you came over here to my apartment, I was like, Jade, you got to see my library too.
And it's solid.
Yeah.
It's got some good reads too.
Yeah. So without further ado, Jade, tell me about your favorite books.
Okay. Well, I have quite a few favorites, but
of course,
the one I've brought with me to share with you today is titled The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch. Definitely the favorite. And by favorite, I mean, I've read it so many times. I can't stop rereading it because it's just that good.
About how many times have you read it?
Let's see. I've been reading it at least twice a year for 8 years now, so about 16 times.
Holy cow, okay.
And it's a fairly light read. I mean, it doesn't take super long, so.
Yeah. So what is The Last Lecture about?
Well, oh my goodness, where do I begin with this one? So The Last Lecture, again, is written by Randy Pausch, who was a professor at Carnegie Mellon. And he actually didn't intend for it to be a book. He intended for it to just be a lecture because that's what he did. He was a professor, and so he lectured.
Right.
Up until about his late 40s, he found out he had pancreatic cancer.
Okay.
And that's when he's like, oh, shoot, I can only give so many more lectures now. He's only going to be teaching for so much longer. And typically, professors at universities, when they leave the university, they give what's called a last lecture. To their class, to other professors are usually invited, and it's just kind of them saying goodbye to that university. And for him, he was saying goodbye to this planet Earth and all his friends and family. He was only given so much time to live, and so he decided, well, I'm going to do what I do best, and that's lecture. And so they recorded his last lecture on video. They actually released it on YouTube, and it was so famous and popular that they turned it into a book. Very cool.
So I totally believe you. I'm on YouTube all the time. I've never seen this lecture. At least I don't think so.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, it's kind of a longer YouTube video, so it's not necessarily one that people will run into because, I don't know, I feel like when you go onto YouTube, you're looking for something like 10 minutes or less.
Right.
Unless you're looking for something specific.
Sure.
And the last lecture was actually, I think I first saw it, I want to say 8th or 9th grade.
Okay, so that would have been before you read the book.
Yeah, before I read the book. I saw the lecture and watched it in class, and I remember thinking, oh my goodness, this is so good. I cried at school. How embarrassing.
Yeah.
And
that's how you know it's a good book.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't even realize it was a book. I just thought, oh, this is a great YouTube video. And I mean, that was kind of my introduction to YouTube. I mean,
a very cool introduction, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah. And then it was a few years later at a Costco, actually, that I saw the book, and I was like, oh, that's similar. That's a similar title to this awesome YouTube video I watched. Yeah. And I start going through the book, and then I see Randy Pausch's picture, and I'm like, no friggin' way. This is amazing. And so I bought the book, and I've been reading it a couple times a year ever since.
Yeah, it must be a fantastic book if you've read it so many times.
Oh, it really is. I mean, it's full of all these philosophies, I guess, on how to live your life the best way possible. Although he actually says in the book, he's like, this isn't a book I've written to tell you how to live your life. It's more just telling you how I lived mine and what worked for me.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, it's kind of nice because then you can look at his stories and kind of his points of view on different ideals and then figure out what yours are from that.
Sure. When he talks about the ideals that he has, because you said that he found out he had pancreatic cancer, right? Mm-hmm. And that really changes your perspective. Does he correct the kinds of ideals that he had prior to knowing that he had cancer, or what does he do?
There are a couple chapters where he does go over that. However, the foundation of the book is actually achieving your childhood dreams. Oh, so okay. Instead of talking about how the cancer shifted his perspectives, he talked about how he wasn't scared to die because he accomplished all of his dreams. He achieved all of his dreams. And so death no longer was a fear for him.
That's interesting. So at the moment that that basically he was given an expiration date, he looked at his life and said, I've already done everything that I needed to do. I achieved all of my dreams, and therefore I don't have any reason to fear this next step.
Oh, yeah. And granted, he never says that directly. So he never says, oh my goodness, I'm not scared of death anymore. But you can hear it in all the convictions as he talks about all these different ideals and philosophies he has about life. He's just so convicted in like the way that he lived his life and so grateful for the things that he achieved, the things he did, the way he lived his life, that he's like, look, I've done it. I mean, obviously he didn't want to die. No, I don't think anybody does, sure, especially, right. When they're doing great things. I mean, and he left a wife and 3 children behind. He married the girl of his dreams, and he actually didn't meet her until like his mid-30s. So he had only had so many years with her by the time that he passed. And he has these 3 kids, and he's just like, oh, shoot. Right. Like, I have kids, and I'm a dad. I mean, his youngest was around the age of 1 when he passed away.
Oh my gosh, yeah, leaving a little one behind.
His little baby daughter.
Let's see. And so the lecture was, it sounds like it was almost 10 years or maybe a little over 10 years ago. Has he passed away since then?
He has. I can't recall the exact date that he passed. I do remember it was in August because I Googled it at one point. Because I told myself, I was like, I'm going to read this every day on like the day of his passing to kind of remember, how much I love this book. And I remembered it was in August, so I read it every August, but I don't remember the exact date, and I don't feel that it's that important. But yeah, he has since passed. From what I've checked, his wife hasn't remarried, but because they published the book, it actually has provided quite a bit of security for his wife and 3 kids, not just financially, but through his book, he gets to be there for his children, right, which is super fantastic.
Yeah, that is so wonderful to hear. Like, first of all, that it does provide for the family that he leaves behind, financially. Like that. Oh yeah. I can't tell you how happy I am to hear that, first of all. And then second of all, it's amazing that his family gets to really have him with them. Like, in the moment when he, for all I know, the moment that he is the most self-actualized he's ever been in his life, and his family has access to that forever.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a great way to leave a legacy. And that actually is something that he talks about in the beginning of the book. He was kind of going over, like this, how was it? So in the beginning of the book, he talks about what he wants to do to leave his legacy behind, essentially. He and his wife had been going to therapy, and they suggested, okay, you need to find a way to record all the things that you want to say to your kids, whether it's in letter form, video, whatever you want to do. And he's like, okay, well, what makes me unique? How do I do this? And so he started thinking about it, and he came to this, he uses the analogy, a dying lion still wants to roar, because a lion is still a lion, even when it's dying. And so it still wants to roar and remember, okay, I'm a lion, I'm going to die a lion. And if somebody's a YouTuber, for instance, they're going to want to leave like a series of YouTube videos for like their legacy. And
Sure,
if somebody's a writer, they're going to want to write a book. If somebody's an actor, they're going to want to play out a movie. I mean, everybody wants to leave something that's unique to them behind for those that they love. And for him, he's like, I'm a lecturer. He's done a lot of things. I mean, like I said, he's achieved all his childhood dreams. But his biggest passion was being a professor. And so the best way to show his children and everyone else who he truly was to give that last lecture. And it can be seen through the YouTube video. It can be read through this book. And as you kind of live the teachings that he lays out in the books, you're just like, wow, look at me, you know? I mean, you get to emulate, you know, a lot of who he was in your own life. So it's a really cool way to leave a legacy.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds like you really had it figured out, like to go out doing the thing that you did while you were here and the thing that you loved. I personally hope that I have that opportunity when, you know, I reach the end of my time here, that I'm able to leave behind something that I'm really proud of, and to kind of put that, I don't know, the cherry on top of the ice cream that is my life, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, same. I think we all do. I mean, my mother used to call me the Jade of all trades because I was just like dabbling into everything, and I still do.
Absolutely.
And I'm constantly thinking about that. Like, okay, what on earth am I going to leave for my, you know, like future generations, whether it's children or nieces and nephews or whatever, you know, like what am I going to give them? And I mean, it's just going to be this series of like different experiences that I've had in life, and I'm like, well, it's gonna be like a treasure hunt essentially, like go figure out who your Aunt Jade was or who your mom was, or like whatever. So but it is something that I think we all think about and we all want to do, and it doesn't have to be like as grand as, you know, giving a last lecture and writing a book. I think what he really tries to emphasize is, don't just be yourself, be your best self. And here are some ways to do that. Here are some ways to really like tailor this life experience to you so that you can get the most out of it and you can put the most back into it.
Absolutely. So is that the main philosophy that he teaches throughout this lecture, is don't be just you, but be the best you that you can be?
In a sense, yes. Again, doesn't directly say that. But he really stresses that achieving your childhood dreams is what makes you, it's what allows you to feel super fulfilled in life. And the best part is some of the dreams that he had written down, he almost kind of had to tweak a little. Like, for example, he had the dream to be an astronaut. And so that was on his list of childhood dreams. However, he wore glasses. And so he's like, well, there's no way. They're never going to let me go into space.
Right,
I have terrible
right.
vision. However, he looked further into that dream and realized, okay, why do I want to be an astronaut? And he's
Right.
like, okay, actually, I don't want to be an astronaut. I just want the floating. And so that was actually his dream. His dream was actually getting in zero gravity and experiencing that. And he was able to do that because, you know, he's a professor at Carnegie Mellon, and
Right.
he was able to do a lot of, I mean, he became a Disney Imagineer at one point.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah. So he's like super experienced in all these things, and he got the opportunity to go on this field trip with the students, and he was so excited because he was finally going to get to float with the students. And then he actually finds out, okay, so there was an obstacle. So not only did he want to float instead of be an astronaut, but his dream, like, he hit another roadblock with it. And he found out a few weeks beforehand, he's like, oh, instructors and professors actually can't go in with the students. It's only the students allowed to experience zero gravity. And he's like, well, dang it. And then he thinks of this quote that he's fairly famous for, which is, brick walls are there for a reason. They're not there to keep people out. They're there to show us how badly we want something. Mm. And so he, you know, remembered this little mantra of his and was like, okay, how badly do I want this? I'm going to find some way in there because I am achieving this dream. I'm not going to be an astronaut. This is my one shot for zero gravity. And So he reviews all the information about this field trip, looking for any loophole, and he finds one. He found out that if you were part of the like camera crew or filming anything, you were allowed in, even if you were a professor. Yeah. So he got certified to do that. Ended up working with the school's newspaper to come and be like, okay, not only am I going to take my students on this field trip, but I'm going to capture it on camera, video, so that we can post it throughout the school and advertise it. And I mean, the people weren't too happy about it, but they found out that he was right. He swung it and he was able to float in zero gravity and achieved one of his childhood dreams.
Wow. I mean, so that's like what you're saying, like you're a Jade of all trades, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like being a jack of all trades, or even being open to all possibilities, all like routes that will help you achieve your dreams. It sounds like he was really able to figure out how to do that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. When we go after something that we're super passionate about or that we want badly enough, we don't care so much how we get there. We just want to get there. I mean, I feel like the balance in life is very much between finding joy in the journey, per se, and really enjoying just the trip. But then there are other times that it's like, no, I'm going to enjoy the reward.
Yeah.
And that was something that he did. He's like, no, don't get me wrong. I love being a teacher. That was his journey. But he also did like some of the rewards, like becoming a Disney Imagineer and working for them for a while and floating in zero gravity. And another one was meeting Captain Kirk. He wanted to be Captain Kirk. I mean, whose dream, like who doesn't have that dream?
Yeah.
But he's like, meeting him's the next best thing. So.
Wait a minute. Captain Kirk, is that...
Star Trek.
Right. William Shatner?
Yes, actually, and he met William Shatner. And William Shatner actually sent him a picture, a signed, autographed picture of himself as Captain Kirk when he found out that Randy Pausch was going to pass away. And he signed it with one of Captain Kirk's famous quotes that says, "I don't believe in the no-win scenario." And it just reaffirmed that Randy chasing his dreams the way he did, it just reiterated it. Like the brick walls are there, but I don't believe in the no-win scenario. I'm going to find a way. I mean, maybe he wasn't actually Captain Kirk on Star Trek, but I mean, to me, he was very much Captain Kirk because he was the guy that saved the day in so many ways. And it didn't necessarily have to be like a life or death situation. It was more just, it was almost saving his dreams from dying.
Right.
Despite him finding out that he was going to be dying, which is super powerful.
Absolutely. I mean, for me personally, one of the things that motivates me is emulating my heroes.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be a real person. I can emulate a fictional character and be inspired by that story in the same way that sounds like he was. But by doing that, by emulating Captain Kirk in his own life, he becomes a figure in real life for us to emulate. He becomes a hero in his own right. It sounds like that's a bit of what he is to you, right? Oh, yeah. Okay, but now I got to know, like, who are some of your heroes? Some of my personal heroes? Shoot. Well, a couple of years ago, the musical Hamilton came out.
Yes, such a great musical.
As much as that musical may be a bit of a creative work, the inspiration around all of the founding fathers, I find that to be something that I strive to emulate. And then also trying to avoid, I won't say warts and all because I don't think anybody wants to emulate the warts, right? And so what inspiration I can take from that, I try to emulate. And also Lin-Manuel Miranda, I mean.
Oh, yeah. He is fantastic, and he's hilarious on Twitter. I adore him.
Yeah.
Definitely a hero.
I used to love his good morning tweets. He used to say good morning, and then he'd like say something inspirational.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But also funny. So you're just like, okay, this is relatable, very specific for this day. It just, it brings you into the now, which I appreciate. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a little bit of a break right now. And when we come back, we'll continue with the last lecture.
Perfect.
All right. So we're back. And I wanted to start by asking you, who are some of your childhood heroes?
Oh, goodness. Other than Randy. I think my heroes started out with Disney. Definitely was a huge fan of Pocahontas and Mulan.
Oh,
super basic and typical. And I mean, I'd have to say now my heroes are more people that I know, and less so much people that are super world renowned. I mean, there are definitely people that I appreciate their points of view and the good that they've brought to the world, like Brene Brown, for instance.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, she's fantastic. Huge fan. I've always been a fan of Ellen. I think she's hilarious.
Okay.
Let's see. This one. Okay. I don't know if I could count this necessarily as a hero, but kind of. So John Legend and Chrissy Teigen. Love them both as individuals and together. Because I'll be honest, relationships, I don't know. I'm just like, those are bad ideas. But then I see John Legend and Chrissy Teigen and I'm like, actually, they're great because they're still very much themselves and who they are.
Yeah.
John Legend's still very much like singing. I mean, he was rock Jesus for a while.
Right.
It's great. And Chrissy Teigen's hilarious. Like, she's just really funny and very much herself, but together they're still amazing. So I'm a huge fan of them.
So you're saying that relationships don't have to be codependent?
Oh my goodness.
What a thought.
Who knew? Yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty great. Huge fan. But yeah, my heroes slowly drifted from like Disney princesses to famous people in the world and famous characters from history to really just real live people that I get to spend time with and be with every day. One of them actually, Emily Landon. That woman, she is a goddess. I met her in a coffee shop, completely random, super funny story how I met her. She actually did not want to be talking to people that day, hence why she went to a coffee shop on a Sunday.
Okay.
And I was like, screw it, we're in a coffee shop, I'm meeting you. And we became best friends. And she's a few years older than me, but she's definitely at this point in life where she's kind of living the dream. And through witnessing her live her life the way that she does, I realize that's attainable. That's so much more realistic. I mean, I look at Brene Brown's life and she's traveling the world and it's just like, okay, a little less attainable, at least at this point in time for me. I'm definitely not world renowned, but
it's never too late though.
Oh, no, for sure it's not. But it would be quite a leap for me at the stage in life that I'm at. Whereas being with somebody like Emily Landon, it's just like, oh, wow, she's there. She's got the adorable house, the adorable husband. She is totally like living her dreams. I mean, she started as an event specialist where she just worked for an events company, like setting up chairs, and now she's on a marketing team for an up and coming company. And it's just like, wow. Oh my goodness, like these are some of my dreams. And I realized they're a lot more realistic than I thought. And who's to say that, you know, the more I keep her in my life and the more I try to emulate the qualities she has and the more I achieve my own dreams, I mean, who knows? I may be the next world's Brene Brown. So
I stand.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I have a fan, guys.
So one of the things that you said, and I just wanted to mention quickly, because you said, you know, I used to like Pocahontas, and what was the other?
Mulan. Yes.
And you said it's super basic. And while I understand like the sentiment that it's basic to, you know, admire like Disney princesses, I don't think it's basic if you have a good reason for admiring them, right?
Good point.
Like we could even like look at, you know, John Legend and
Chrissy Teigen,
right? And for some people, pop stars would be like a shallow person to look up to. But when you articulate the reasons that you like them, that they are successful at what they do, that they are independent people who have their own careers and their own selves, and then they're also able to like have this relationship publicly, and we can look at it and say like, oh, look, this is what a healthy relationship looks like. That's a very profound reason to look up to these people, and not just because everybody knows their names or because, John Legend has an amazing voice.
Oh my goodness, he does.
Yeah.
So dreamy. Yeah, no, that's true. I think that's what a lot of people forget sometimes, is that everyone is still a person. I mean,
Yeah.
some people are famous. Some people are successful, quote unquote.
Right.
And everybody thinks that that's what success is supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like fame and traveling the world. I mean, it really, for me, success, it goes back to Randy, where it's just achieving your childhood dreams. It's finding that happiness, and whatever makes you happy. For him, happiness was floating in frickin' zero gravity.
Right.
And he found it. And for every single one of us, it's different. Like, we are all humans. We're all searching for happiness. And I actually came upon this quote not too long ago. I can't remember who it's from, but it essentially went along the lines of, everyone is searching for happiness as if it's going to be out there in the world, out there in money, out there in the perfect relationship, when happiness has always been within you.
Right.
And it comes to that basic principle of, we get to choose happiness. We get to choose what makes us happy, and then we get to choose to chase that happiness, except we're not really chasing it because it's already there.
Right. Yeah.
But we just, I suppose it's not about chasing happiness. It's more about just doing what we can, creating the lifestyle that we want to live that allows that happiness to grow and stay in our lives. So
I feel that so much. There's a part of me that wants to make a reservation for that, given that things like depression are so common with people our age nowadays.
Oh yeah.
I'm hesitant to say well, happiness is a choice, because there are some people who literally can't choose to be happy. But you are right that happiness is not outside of ourselves. And it's very much like this idea of happiness is something that I'm going to go get. It's like a physical thing.
Yeah, you've got to attain it.
That I can have, right?
Yeah.
And that's not what it is. Happiness is in essence of being. It's something that you are. It's not something that you have.
Oh no, it exactly. I mean, it really is that. And in a sense, I mean, there may be instances that we do, quote unquote, chase happiness, but
Sure. All the time.
It's not that we're chasing it. Like, to give an example, watching Star Wars. I love watching Star Wars. It makes me happy. So when I can't create that happiness from within, because inside me is an unhealthy environment to cultivate that happiness, I bring outside things inward so that happiness can grow. And
Right.
and it's not that happiness is non-existent inside myself and I have to get something outside of myself to make myself happy. It's
Right.
really just, okay, I can't cultivate this on my own. I need some outside help. And that's the thing, is even with depression, I mean, I feel like to an extent we all suffer from depression. I definitely had my rounds with it, and I don't think that's ending anytime soon. Like, it'll probably hit me again. Depression's great. Not really. But the way that we often overcome depression is via an outside source. Until we can cultivate that happiness on our own inwards, we either reach out to somebody that can help us, or we go to a thing, like a good old cup of coffee and reading a book in a coffee shop, and then irritating that person that you're reading a book with. Emily.
Or therapy.
Yeah, therapy even. I mean, again, it's bringing an outside thing into your life so that you can utilize that thing and cultivate happiness on your own. It's not that it can never be achieved. Actually, I'm going to share a passage from the book that talks about this. Because, I mean, he's suffering from cancer, right? You
Right.
think he's going to be super depressed. But there's actually a story that he shares that kind of gets you thinking, oh, wow, you can still be happy even in the darkest of times. A Dumbledore moment, if you will.
Yeah.
One only remembers, turn on the light. So it's in chapter 13. It's called The Man in the Convertible. And it's a story about him driving his convertible, which I know that would make me so happy too. I mean, if I'm depressed, yeah, let's just cry in a convertible. So he's driving his convertible, and He gets home later that day, checks his email, and he sees an email from a friend who comments on seeing him drive in the convertible. And it's a friend of his who knew that he was suffering from pancreatic cancer. And she couldn't believe that it was him. She had to do a few double takes going, what? Is this really Randy? Because what she saw was Randy with the top down in his convertible, smiling, like grinning from ear to ear, and just bobbing his head along to the music. And she's like, that man is suffering from pancreatic cancer.
Right.
He's going to die. I mean, we're all going to die, but he's going to die soon, and he knows it. And here he is, grinning from ear to ear, just appreciating that moment in the convertible. And this is what Randy had to say about that. He finishes up this chapter with the following. He says, her email was just a paragraph, but it meant a great deal to me. She had given me a window into myself. I was still fully engaged. I still knew life was good. I was doing okay. And I think that's a really important lesson for anybody who's struggling with depression or, frustration with their current situation in life, whatever it might be. You have to remember that you're still there. The sun is still shining, even beyond the clouds or the snow or the rain or whatever moment that you're in. It's still there. And you still get to be fully present and experience whatever it is that you're experiencing. And it's not what's happening to you that matters. It's what you do with what's happening to you that can make the sun shine even behind the clouds and the rain.
Yeah. I can't imagine being in that situation and being able to be like Randy. Oh yeah,
that's tough.
I don't know. And maybe, so everything you've said sounds good. I agree with it. I want to live by it. Right.
Read the book.
But I will.
Yes.
But everything's very optimistic, and maybe it's the pessimist in me that has this question of Randy's lived his perfect life and he's okay, meeting his fate, meeting his end. I don't know if the average person feels like they're in that place as well, where if I received news that I was going to die soon, would I look back on my life and say I'm good with that?
Oh, yeah, that's a dark question. I honestly couldn't either. I don't think.
Does Randy have does he address that at all?
He does in an indirect way. Again, he's
Sure.
It's so funny because despite him giving very specific stories and sharing moments from his life and his own analogies on things, you read between the lines, if you will, a lot in this book, and you come up with kind of your own paradigms and philosophies and your own way of looking at things. Because what Randy does is he takes you so much out of your own perspective and into his that you start shaping a completely new one that's not yours, it's not his, it's completely different. And he does address that in that indirect way. And one of the ways that I've noticed when I read the book is in the way of kind of tweaking your dreams. For example, with the astronaut to zero gravity thing, it's one of those things where it's okay, maybe, for instance, my dream is to become an actress. And if I were to find out next week that, I wasn't going to live past 2020. 2020, that's my year, guys. I'm going out.
Go out strong.
Then there's a number of things I can do. So it's going to be one of those really reflective moments that I'll have to take of, okay, well, why do I want to be an actress? Do I want to be an actress for the fame, or do I just want to leave a legacy? And then I got to figure out what I'm going to do with the next few months. It's okay, on top of that, how big of a priority is this? If it's a big priority, which in this hypothetical situation, it totally is, I need to be an actress before I die, before the end of 2020, I am going to be an actress. Then I will figure out a way to do it. I got to figure out, okay, I want to be an actress. I want to do it for the legacy. There's so many possibilities after that. It's okay, well, guess what? I'm on a podcast. That's a legacy. I was on the radio once. That was dope. I still have the recording for that. I have so many friends with cameras. I can just make random videos and Boom, there's my legacy.
YouTube.
I can start videoing.
You're an actress.
and so it's not necessarily like Randy actually, he gets into some pretty dark situations. I mean, like I said, he met his wife later on in life. And so the fact that he can't be there for his kids or for his wife for the rest of their lives, or the remainder of their lives, which will probably be long,
right,
it is a bummer to him. Like he's not in denial. He says that in the beginning of the book. He's like, look, I'm not in denial. Like, I know that I'm going to die. And I also know that I'm very sad about that. But this present moment isn't about what's about to happen to me. It's about what has happened to me that has brought me to this present moment. And that's the good stuff I can focus on. And I'm sure he didn't look back on all those memories and go, oh, this was amazing. Like, I totally achieved this dream. He probably was just like, I honestly believe, based on, you know, the preface to this book where he kind of explains how he put this all together, he even acknowledged, oh, wow, there's this dream I achieved and I didn't even realize I did, you know, until he was putting it all together and reflecting. And so I think if we were to take a moment and really be honest with ourselves in that reflection, we'd realize that we've achieved a lot more than we dreamt we could. And to add to that, some of us have been through very dark things, and maybe they weren't the achievements that could relate to somebody like frickin' Rapunzel from Tangled or famous Chrissy Teigen, but the fact that we were able to get out of those dark places, or if we're in the dark places, that we're still here working towards following the light, I guess, getting out of that darkness, that's still a huge achievement. And I don't think that dreams should be chosen based on like grandeur. Like, you don't need to choose a dream of like, oh, I need to meet the president and punch him in the face, or anything like that. Or have a dream as huge as that to think that you're accomplished. I think it really is just a matter of, who did I become through these situations, and is this the type of person that can leave this world with no regrets? And that's what Randy did. I mean, obviously he wanted to stay there for his wife and kids, but since he was going to leave and that was the reality, did he have any regrets? Doesn't sound like he did.
Right.
And that's I think the thing we have to kind of remember when we're in that moment of reflection.
Right. Because all any one of us has is what we have.
Exactly.
And when he realized that he didn't have time, then he had to make up for what he didn't have with what he did. And finding a way to cope with that. I think that's so, it sounds so healthy. It sounds like a place that I want to be, right? Where I'm
right. You're just like, is this actually attainable? I mean, who knows? Maybe Randy is a fake character. He's not real.
But either way, right? Like, I can take solace in that. I can follow that story and make the most with what I have while I have it, you know?
Oh yeah. No, it's super important, and he actually started doing that at a very young age. His parents by no means were poor, but also by no means the wealthiest people in the world. They were doing financially well, like pretty straight line throughout their life.
Sure.
And he complains in a specific passage. He complains about not going to the movies a lot. And his parents were like, well, you've seen a theater, go read a book, or watch TV. You know, you have other things. We don't need to go see a movie. So they had plenty of money to go to the movies, but his parents didn't think that was worth their money.
Sure.
And he went to Disneyland once, fell in love with the place. There's a legit chapter in the book titled The Happiest Place on Earth, and it covers his experience in Disneyland. And they only went the one time growing up, and he kept asking his parents, why can't we go again? Why can't we go again? And they're just like, you've already been once. Like, why do you need to keep going? And so he learned from a young age that, like, a lot of the things, if he was going to want to do things, he was going to kind of have to do it himself. And there's another chapter later in the book where he ends up taking his parents to Disneyland. I mean, he had worked there as a Disney Imagineer, and he takes them back. And he actually teaches his dad a very valuable lesson. And it's really cool. It kind of shows you how like the student becomes the master.
Yeah.
So he has this moment with his father where he takes his parents to Disneyland to kind of show his appreciation, like, thanks for being the best parents in the world. Because he even titles the chapter about his parents the parent lottery. He won the parent lottery.
So good for him.
I know. But that's how he saw his parents. And you read about it and you're like, whoa, his parents were kind of strict. But he was just like, okay, look, these are the parents I got. And these are the great qualities. I'm just going to focus on those, and work with those, which I'm sure he didn't do all the time. We were all rebellious teenagers at one point. But yeah, he takes his dad to Disneyland, and they're about to get on this ride. And his dad kind of looks at him and he's just like, man, I wish they'd let people sit in the front on this ride. And Randy's like, okay, Dad, I'm going to show you this cool trick. And his dad's like, okay, show me. And Randy walks up to one of the Disney workers and he said, hey, are you okay if my father and I sit in the front seat? And the worker's like, yeah, sure. And gets him in the front seat, and his dad is just mind blown. Like, what did you just do? How much did you pay him?
Right.
And his dad Randy in that moment got to teach his father like the power of asking. He's like, look, you'll never know unless you ask. So instead of sitting there complaining, like, I wish they'd let people sit in the front seat, you can just ask and they'll give you an answer, or you might get to just sit in the front seat.
Yeah.
and so it was just one of those cool moments that shows, how Randy evolved as a person because of how great his parents were. You know?
That's so cool that he like had that opportunity to show his parents like, look, you've raised me to be a certain way, and now let me show you the payoff for that. Oh, yeah.
Like, he didn't just treat them to Disneyland. He showed them, like, the man that he became, which is just this bold, go-getter, dream chaser. And the thing is he didn't always get what he wanted. I mean, he actually says in the chapter called Jade, which is about his wife, that she was, for being, 5'9", she was by far the most challenging brick wall he has ever faced.
Okay.
And
because he wanted her so bad?
Oh, well, that's the thing is he didn't realize how badly he wanted her until he almost lost her.
Of course.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is Jay was her own person. She had her own series of experiences throughout life, and she basically told Randy that, like, this is too good to be true. It's probably too good to be true, which means this is just going to break me. I'm done with this relationship. And this had been after they'd courted for at least a year at this point, I believe. And they were getting pretty serious, and they'd met each other's families, and he was ready to marry her. And she's like, nah, actually, I'm thinking we should break up. And he's like, wait, what?
Oh, no.
No. And so he calls his father crying, and he's like, this is one of the few times I called my father with a problem, let alone crying. And he's like, Dad, I have no idea what to do. And his dad asked him, he's like, well, do you want to be with her? And he pauses for a moment, and he's just like, do I? Like, is it worth kind of this crying? And he's like, yeah, Dad, I do. And he's like, then I believe you'll do whatever it takes to be with her. And Randy realized that he was going to have to do something very painful to get Jay, and that was be patient.
Oh, man.
He was going to have to wait until she was ready. And so he's like, look, all I'm going to do is I'm going to show her that I'm here for her and that I'm serious, because that's the thing she doesn't believe. She believes this is too good to be true. I'm going to show her she's wrong. And so he sent her flowers and said, hey, look, you do whatever you need to make sure that you're going to be okay. Like, I have no right to make your choices for you or to pressure you into something that you're not ready for. And he was ready to wait, but the flowers and the note did the trick. She calls him up and she's like, okay, actually, I miss you. And then they continued talking, and then she finally agreed to move out because they lived, I think, 2 states away.
Okay.
And she agreed to move to this new state to continue dating him and move in with him. And then they get married, and I mean, she wasn't easy. She wasn't easy to court, but he realized the importance of knowing what you want and taking all the possible ways to get there, which is something we've kind of already talked about. But going back to zero gravity, he realized that he didn't want to be an astronaut. That was his dream as a child. But as he got older, he realized, no, I actually just want the zero gravity. I want the floating. And he realized that with Jay as well. He's like, look, I'm a pretty well-to-do guy, charming, fairly attractive, especially for his age when he was when he was courting Jay. Yeah. And he realized, like, I could date another girl. I could get another girl. I could go with somebody else who's more ready. But he realized he didn't want that. He wanted to be with her, even if he only had 1 year with her, which fortunately he got more than that. And so he was willing to go the different alternative routes per se to achieve that dream. And he did, and he ended up achieving so many other dreams with her, which is way cool.
That's the best payoff, I think.
Oh, yeah.
At all.
Share that dream.
Well, so we have to take another break real quick. But when we come back, I do want to ask you a bit more about that.
Awesome.
So before we left, you had just told me about how Randy had figured out that he had to be patient in order to, I guess, give his wife what she needed in that moment. Mm-hmm. Patience can be a very difficult thing, especially when Randy had no guarantee that patience was going to work, right?
Oh, yeah.
He was doing the right thing.
So many uncertainties.
But she could have chosen not to come back, right?
Oh, yeah. Very real chance that she wouldn't go back.
Right. How do you deal with being patient in your life?
Oh, I don't.
Not
I was
at
just
all?
Kidding. Being patient. I heard once that being patient isn't waiting for something to come to you. It's more doing other things until what you want to happen happens. And distracting yourself. So maybe it's because I'm a Gemini. I don't know. But I'm really great at distracting myself with other things. And so if one dream's not working out for me and I'm not getting something that I want, then I work on other things because, I don't know, I feel like people don't have dream in life. They have dreams, plural. And
sure, yeah.
And so there are other things that you can be working towards. An example for me is I was in I mean, this one's kind of intense, but there was somebody that I was with for 3 years. Totally thought I was going to achieve my dream of like getting married, living happily ever after, finding the one, right?
Yeah. Who wants to be happy, ever after?
Oh yeah. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am this close. You can't see, but I'm holding my fingers together and they're almost touching.
Yeah.
This close to achieving that dream. And I mean, he didn't feel the same way. And I was shattered. And I'm just like, well, shoot. And so I cried for an entire day. But then right after, I was like, you know what? I can't make him change his mind. I can't choose this for him, but I can choose what I do next. And so I started working on other dreams. I started doing yoga more because my dream is to become a yoga instructor, and I actually became one.
Yeah.
And I also had this dream to work on some relationships with my family. And so I started working on those, and I started spending more time with my friends, and I started singing more. I had a dream to sing, and I actually ended up writing a song with a friend of mine. And
oh my gosh.
I know.
I've got to hear that sometime.
Oh, it's great. I'll definitely show it to you. But yeah, I started chasing all these other dreams. And while I was out chasing those dreams, I actually met my current boyfriend and soon to be fiance and husband. And so it's like, look, not only did I end up achieving those other dreams, but it brought me back to this one. Yeah. The one that I had kind of started with per se. So,
well, it's great to hear, and congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, okay. I've had this question for the entirety of this episode. But like the conversation has been so good that I haven't found a good place to bring it up. And I'm a little bit confused at why Randy talks so much about childhood dreams. For example, earlier when I had asked you about your heroes, you said like your heroes had changed over time.
Right.
I would assume that your dreams can change over time too. Is that?
Oh, totally. I mean, they can definitely adapt, and his did in many ways. And I can actually give you a few examples. He wrote them down. Super helpful. The first one being in zero gravity, which we've already discussed. So we'll actually move on to the next one, which is playing in the NFL.
Okay.
And
did he play in the NFL?
He actually didn't. This is where the dream adapted.
Okay.
So his dream as a child was to play in the NFL. And he didn't end up playing in the NFL, but what he did end up doing was kind of playing in, it's not the Little League, because that's baseball. But he ended up playing tackle football. And he started playing it when he was 9 years old. And he states that it actually helped make him who he was today. Not necessarily because of playing football. I mean, I'm sure that did wonders for like his physical health.
Sure, yeah.
But it was actually because of his coach. Coach Graham was his name. And he states that Jim Graham was a hulking 6'4" wall of a guy. He had been a linebacker at Penn State and was seriously old school. I mean, really old school. Like he thought the forward pass was a trick play.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah, really old school. So he talks about this time that he had practiced with the other boys, and it was kind of just, their team against their team. They divided up and they were playing against each other, and Coach Graham was huge on fundamentals. And so as they were practicing and playing, one of the kids noticed that they were not using a football. And so he's like, Coach, we're not using a football. And he's like, yeah, you want to know why? And they're like, well, duh. Of course we
right,
want to know.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to know why.
Why are we playing tackle football and we're not using a football? He says, okay, how many men are on a football field at a time? And they said, well, there's 11 on a team, so 22 are on the field. And he said, okay, and how many people are touching the football at any given time? And they're like, oh, only one. And he's like, exactly. So we're going to work on what those other 21 guys are doing.
Fantastic philosophy.
Right?
I'm blown away right now.
Oh, yeah. This isn't even the best part. It's really not. I mean, this coach was an amazing guy. Really old school, but great. So there was one practice in particular that Randy talks about, and he was doing everything wrong. And so the entire time, Coach Graham is just beating on Randy, like, give me 20, drop and give me 10, go back and do it again.
Right.
End of practice, Randy is beat. He's just like, do I really want to play football? Maybe this was a bad decision. And so he's walking away from the field, and one of the assistant coaches runs up to Randy, and he said to Randy, Coach Graham rode you pretty hard, didn't he? And Randy's like, yeah. And the assistant tells him, well, that's a good thing. When you're screwing up and nobody says anything to you anymore, that means they've given up on you.
Right.
And Randy goes on to say that lesson stuck with him his whole life. And he was known as the professor that was always bold, always correcting people, always telling them, ways to improve and calling them out on their bullshit, honestly. Yeah. Just calling them out on anything. And he did that not because he wanted to be mean, but because he's like, no, look, I care about you succeeding. I know how you can succeed because I'm a professor. This is what I do. And so he's like, I'm not saying any of this to be mean. I'm saying this because I care about you, and I know that you can succeed. And so me reading this book as a teenager, or listening to the YouTube video as a teenager, was super important, because I realized that when people were calling me out or criticizing me, it wasn't to, make me rebellious or upset me. It was because they cared. And so when I looked at things in that light, I no longer felt like I wanted to just, mess around or get people back or get vengeance or whatever.
Right.
I started to see it as, oh, they're pointing something out, they care. Like when somebody says, oh, hey, you have something on your teeth. It's not because they want to embarrass you. It's because they want to prevent you from embarrassing yourself in front of somebody else,
And I'm so thankful that people are willing to tell me when I have something in my, like something as simple as that. Because
Right.
I even get nervous when I want to tell somebody that they have something in their teeth. I'm like, I don't want them to be embarrassed, but they're going to be embarrassed if like nobody tells them,
Oh, yeah.
But it's because I care.
Exactly. And so Coach Graham was amazing for multiple reasons. Not because he, made them like a star football team in their little tackle football
Sure.
area, but he also taught them these important lessons of like, hey, look, I'm not quitting on you. You don't get to quit on yourself. He taught them the fundamentals. But the most important thing was that Randy took from this was the head fake. And you know what a head fake is, right?
I believe I do.
Okay,
But
go ahead and what's a head fake?
a head fake is just when I would use my body and act like I'm moving in one direction in order to confuse the defense, but I would know that I'm heading in another direction. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And because of the fundamentals that Coach Graham was teaching, this tackle football team, this ragtag football team, he, the fundamentals, because he was teaching them that, he was able to teach them all how to master the head fake. And Randy even tells all the readers, he's like, Coach Graham was the master of head fakes.
Yeah.
And there was like always this ulterior motive. And even Randy, you'll notice as you read the book, you're just like, oh, he's constantly just telling you these stories. And then you get this totally like different perspective from it. And so you're getting these head fakes throughout the book, which is another reason that I like it, because it's like, okay, cool. I'm hearing this really cool story. I'm getting into somebody else's life. And then I get this perspective from it that I'm just like, wow, who knew? So he never made it to the NFL. But he said that not making it was almost better for him because he learned more from Coach Graham as a kid in tackle football than he felt like he ever could have in NFL. And so that was one way that, sometimes that your dream changes.
Yeah.
I guess your dream either changes or it no longer becomes relevant, or you realize what you really wanted from the dream.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Like realizing what it was that you wanted from that dream, because your dreams can change and you can even put them to rest and move on from them. But that doesn't mean that you're not grateful and that you don't fully accept that dream, So even if he didn't make it to the NFL, he can look back at everything that dream did for him and everything that dream continues to do for him, even though that's not his dream anymore.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The next thing he had on his list of achieving childhood dreams was authoring an article in the World Book Encyclopedia.
Oh, that's cool.
He actually did it.
Shut up. This guy.
I know. So, because he's a computer guru and straight up nerd, he is actually found under the letter V in the World Book Encyclopedia. So the reason that he wanted to be in it so bad was because when he grew up, as I mentioned previously, his parents were just like, read a book, watch TV, like make your own fun kind of parents. And so one thing that he loved to read was the encyclopedias. He loved those. And so he decided that he wanted to be in one day as a kid. He's like, I totally want to write a section in this book. But as you learn from reading his book, or even if you know about this already in real life, it's actually not something that you can go do. You kind of have to be called by the book, and they'll say, hey, we want you to write this article. Well, Randy this is one of the dreams that he forgot that he had until he was achieving it. And he's like, oh crap, I just did that.
Right. Yeah.
And so here he is living his life, trying to achieve some of his dreams. And, he realizes that his passion is computer animation, reality, virtual reality kind of stuff. And he's just like, oh my goodness, I'm so into all of this. And that passion grew when he went to Disneyland, because he's like, I want to be the person that designs all this, that works with all this. But he realized it wasn't just about making the rides look cute and pretty. There's so much that went behind it, all the engineering aspects and the computer and technical aspects of it. And so that's what he went to school for. That's what he studied. He wanted to study all the computer things, and he eventually got so good at developing virtual reality programs that the World Book Encyclopedia called him up one day and they said, "Hey,
gosh.
Do you want to be our expert on virtual reality?" Because he didn't just, it wasn't that he invented virtual reality or came up with that idea. I mean, that existed long before him, but he was the only one that was, charting the course, that was really progressing with virtual reality. And he finally got called up. And so he writes this chapter where he's like telling his kids, like, "Hey, you can find me under V,"
right,
for virtual reality. And so he ends up getting called on that. But it goes back to that thing of like, he didn't realize he had that dream until he got the call. And he's like, "Oh, wow, I've just been chasing my passion of like computer games and like and virtual reality and all this other stuff." And by chasing your passion, you end up becoming so good at it that you might get that call saying, "Hey, you are the expert we need to talk to for this book."
Right. I'm thinking about like that dream that he had. Like if he was a kid and he's like, "I want to write this article," right? If he had spent all of his life thinking about wanting to write the article, the only thing he would have been an expert in is writing articles for the World Encyclopedia, right?
Yeah.
Like, he wouldn't have actually
Exactly.
been, he wouldn't have had anything to contribute to the, like, what the book even means by itself. And so by him going out and following his passions and applying that same level of passion that he would have towards that goal to something where he could be a specialist, he ended up coming back around. So I just
killing
think that's really
two birds
cool.
with one stone in the dream department.
Right.
Well, and it's very important to actually recognize the point you brought up, that if he had focused so much on that and just got really good at writing articles, he never would have done it. I think a lot of times we put a lot of pressure to know on kids to know what they want to do with their life. I mean, I got asked so many times as a kid, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And I'm like, "I'll be a doctor," because I heard other kids say that. Did I actually want to be a doctor? No. Especially when I realized how long you have to go into medical school and like pay for it. It was like, no. I don't, that's not actually my dream,
Sure.
I just said that. And we put a lot of pressure on kids to like kind of decide what they want to do or who they want to be. And I think it's about letting them discover it. And that was the thing, is he had the dream of writing something in the encyclopedia, but fortunately that wasn't his only dream. And he discovered his passion later, and he had to do that on his own without any pressure, because if he had been told like, "Oh, for you to be virtual reality in the encyclopedia, like you're going to have to do this, this, and this," he might have been like, "Never mind, I don't want that." But because he discovered those passions on his own and worked towards them, I mean, yeah, he was able to not only achieve the dream of, chasing his passion and living his passion, but he got another dream checked off the list because of that. And so that's the important part, is that our dreams are dreams because there's no pressure. It's just full of possibilities.
Right.
And not pressure.
Right. Like just living your life instead of trying to turn your life into
Exactly.
something. Just do it.
Oh yeah, exactly. So that was a really cool thing to learn from that. The next one on the list is being Captain Kirk, which we addressed previously. And that was another one that he kind of was like, "Okay, I don't think I'll be Captain Kirk. I'm not going to, be an actor." He didn't want to be an actor or be on the Star Trek series. He just really admired Captain Kirk. And he brings up this point about Captain Kirk that was actually very impressive for me, like totally left impressions in how I view people. So he talks about Captain Kirk, and he's like, "Honestly, when you really look at it, other than being a good pilot, Captain Kirk didn't really have any talents. In fact, there was a better pilot than him. He wasn't even the best. He was just He was quick on his feet, essentially.
Right.
But his superpower, he wasn't, super intelligent, like, what's his name? I can't remember it now.
Mr.
He's
Spock?
the Klingon. Yeah, Spock. There we go.
Yeah.
He wasn't even, able to separate his emotions, because, Captain Kirk was very emotional.
Right, of course.
No toxic masculinity there.
Toxic masculinity? I haven't heard of her.
What? But what Randy points out about Captain Kirk is that Captain Kirk was the guy who knew and saw everyone else's talents and used that to build a team. And he's like, look, you're the intelligent one. I'm leaving all the intelligent decisions to you. You're the really good pilot. I'm leaving all the good pilot ideas to you. What he did is he validated everyone else in their, respective areas of expertise. He took that, combined it, and boom, Star Trek Enterprise, we solid saving the galaxy.
Right.
So he was able to make the executive decisions because he let everybody else do their job. And that is why Randy Pausch was a huge fan of Captain Kirk, was because he realized that, other than being a pretty boy, he didn't have any crazy talents. But the one thing that set him apart from everyone else was that he was able to bring everyone else together.
Right.
And that's what makes a really influential leader, is somebody that can recognize everyone's uniqueness and validate them in that, encourage them in that, and then show them what they could do as a team.
Yeah.
And Randy Pausch was so great at that he did eventually get to meet the actual William Shatner who played Captain Kirk. And William Shatner was such a huge fan of Randy that even in his, last months was like, hey, I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
Yeah.
So it was a very powerful lesson for me to learn.
Yeah. There's when individual parts work together, there's a compounding effect where the whole ends up being greater than the sum of the individual parts on their own.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It sounds like Randy took a lesson from, who other than Captain Kirk to apply that to his life, or at least he saw the value in it. And I think, I'm buying it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And he emulates that concept throughout the book. You read about experiences where he's fighting for his students and where he's really helping them achieve their own dreams. And you're just like, man, he is captaining us into the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's fantastic. And I'd like to share probably one of the most important things that I learned from Randy.
Please do.
So Randy throughout the book gives us these guidelines, if you will.
Okay.
on not necessarily how to live your life. Again, he goes back to, this is just how I lived mine. This is what worked for me. And you get to pick and choose, what works for you. And towards the end of the book, I'm just shocked at everything Randy's done with his life. I'm just like, wow, he has achieved all his dreams, even if it was in a roundabout way.
Right. I'm shocked right here. I haven't even read the book yet.
Yeah.
So.
And then I'm kind of sad because it's just like, why does he have to be done?
Oh, yeah.
And then I realize that he's not. Because one really powerful thing about chasing your dreams is that you learn in that journey that what's more important to you than chasing your own dreams is enabling other people to chase theirs. And Randy shares this story about one of his students, Tommy, who he vouched for, and Tommy was kind of struggling, but he had legit talent. And so Randy just took him under his wing like a Jedi master, and Tommy was his little Padawan, right. And he's like, I am going to help you achieve this dream. And Tommy goes on to help direct a Star Wars movie.
Shut
Clone
up.
Wars. Yeah.
I'm tired of hearing Randy just do these awesome things.
Right, but that's the thing, is it was not Randy at all. Like, he had nothing to do with Star Wars.
Right.
but he had everything to do with Tommy and helping Tommy achieve his dream. And for Randy to see that, he's just like, wow, look at this. I helped this guy do that. And then there was another student that was about to get kicked out of the school, because he was succeeding in all of his classes except math. One he's failing in.
He was going to get kicked out of Carnegie Mellon?
Yeah.
Gosh.
And Randy's like, oh no, like this kid, I will vouch for this kid too. He legit has talent. And so I cannot get this kid kicked out. Like I can't let him get kicked out. And so he goes to the board and he's like, nope, you're not kicking him out. I'm going to help him get on his feet. And this was one of the students that helped create one of the virtual reality programs known as Alice. And Randy ended up giving this program to his student to take over because, Randy's not going to be around forever, especially now with his deadline.
Right.
No pun intended.
Oh, gosh.
But he's like, now I know that my legacy is going to live on through this student. And so here he has these moments that he realized that it wasn't just chasing the dream, it was enabling the dreams of others. That was super important to him. And that was powerful to me because I have dreams. We all have dreams, right?
Yeah.
And I've noticed that with me personally, I get way more excited about something when somebody else is excited about it. Like, there are a few things that I for sure like, even if nobody else is involved. Reading, I love reading. If nobody else wants to read, I'm okay reading by myself. Yoga, I am okay doing yoga by myself. If nobody else wants to get involved, totally fine doing yoga by myself. But then there are other things like watching the new Star Wars movie that I just want to share with everyone else so that we can all clap at the end and talk about it. And it's just one of those things that's more exciting when other people are involved. And Randy realized that about chasing dreams. Yes, his dream chasing was fun, but he realized that he had way more fun doing it with other people. His wife being one of those people, his students being another group of people. Chasing dreams is better when you have other people chasing them with you. So. Oh,
absolutely. I like how you it's not about, for example, you said Tommy, director, worked on a Star Wars film. It's like, it's not about the Star Wars film. It's not about Alice and the cool VR that lives on beyond Randy. It's about Tommy, and when you share your passions with your friends, when you share Star Wars and the books that you read, like right now, sharing this book with me, it's not even about the book. It's about you sharing what motivates you, what you have inside of you with me and with all the people that are listening. Hi, Mom, Yeah. So, but I think it's about people,
Oh, yeah. And that leads us to Randy's head fake that he learned from Coach Graham. Yep. This is the head fake. So a lot of people asked Randy how he achieved so many of his dreams, specifically getting tenure a year early. 10 years is supposed to be in 10 years. That's why it's called tenure. And he got it in 9. He got a 9-year, I guess. And he said, well, if you really want to know, call me any Friday night in my office at 10 p.m. And everybody was like, oh, okay. and they learned from that there are no shortcuts. The best way to do something is to go all in. And
gotcha.
Randy,
so he was still in the office.
Oh yeah, still in the office. He's like, look, if I want to get there quote unquote quicker, I'm going to have to work harder. I'm going to have to put in more time. I'm going to have to take that extra year that I would have taken to get tenure and put it in these next 9 years and work towards it. And he did that with every dream, every childhood dream. I mean, there's one that he really wanted to win the biggest prize at the fair, have that giant stuffed bear on his neck. He was a huge fan, wanted to have that, but it takes time. It takes effort. And you have to be willing to put in that time and effort. You have to be willing to find some way through or over or around that brick wall. And so Randy says that first and foremost, the most important thing that you can have in life are specific dreams. Not necessarily grand ones. They don't have to be, oh, I want to play on the NFL. It's really just, why do you want that dream? And make it specific. For me, I love practicing yoga. I will probably never be some crazy yoga master that travels the world, but I had the specific dream of, I want to become a yoga instructor. And with that specific dream in mind, I was able to make the choices of, okay, I'm going to put in these extra hours to make this money so that I can pay for this course that I found, get my certification in this amount of time. I mean, you can't, how do I put this? You can't go down the path unless you know where the path is leading. And so you have to have those specific dreams in mind so that you can start walking.
Yeah, there's no way to know whether or not you achieved it unless you know what you were trying to achieve.
Exactly.
Dreams aren't completed on accident. In spite of, how you said Randy, when he ended up writing that article, he kind of realized, oh my gosh, I'm writing the article. But it's not that he wrote the article on accident. He didn't
fall into it, no.
Right. It's that he he
chased dreams.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the dreams came to him.
Yeah.
Which he does talk about toward the end of the book, is he does say that the dreams will come to you, which is a very Disney phrase. So Disney of him.
That's the when you wish upon a star, right?
Oh yeah. But he had the concept in mind. He had it right, honestly. I mean, I don't know if you meditate. You meditate, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we did talk about this. Meditation's great. The purpose of meditation is to focus your mind, not to clear it. It's to focus it. And when you focus your mind, everything else falls into place. Your habits start to go towards that focus. So if you focus your mind on, I want to float in zero gravity, every choice you make, all the habits you develop are going to be aimed towards that goal.
Yeah.
Even subconsciously. And Randy understood that. He knew from the Disney perspective that if you wish upon a star, or if you have that focus, then everything else will fall into place and the dreams will come to you. But you have to have the dreams first. You have to have the dreams, and then you have to be willing to actually see them through. And so this puts us in the head fake. His ultimate dream, Randy's ultimate dream, was to be a good father. And
there's a head fake.
There's the head fake.
After all of these fantastic things that he's talked about and these dreams that he's achieved.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just about being a good father.
Exactly. He wanted to be a good husband and a good father, and he now understands that he has this limited amount of time with them. He doesn't get to be a good father for the rest of his now short life, or for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
But he gets to be a father here and now in this moment, and the best way he knows how to do that is to lecture. And so he leaves this last lecture with all these different stories so that his kids will have something to read. They'll have something to listen to. They'll get to see him lecturing, not performing, but lecturing in front of an audience. And his children will get to hear, the laughter when they laugh at the right moments, and when they cry at the right moments. And they get to see who their father was and what they stood for. And Randy actually says this. He writes this in his book, and I think it's perfect for this moment. His father had obviously at this point passed away, and he writes about his father, "I'd like to believe my dad would have approved of how I'm going to live these last months of my life. I also like to think that my dad would be reminding me that the kids, more than anything else, need to know that their parents love them. And I've learned that their parents don't have to be alive for that to happen."
That's very powerful.
Right?
Yeah.
So, as you mentioned earlier, it's all about the people. Our dreams at the end of the day are all about the people. It's all about us. It's all about who we do them with. And that is what I learned from the last lecture.
That's so great. And that's what I learned from the last lecture.
I'm so excited for you to read it.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for coming on and for telling me about this, about your favorite book, a book that, I mean, gosh, that's so fun. I feel Like my life has been enlarged by just hearing about his story and his philosophies.
I'm so happy to hear that. Books do its job.
Every time.
Oh, yeah.
I have 2 questions to ask you.
Of course.
Before you go. The first one is, on your own rating scale, whatever scale that is that you would choose, how would you rate The Last Lecture compared to every book ever written? And it's your own scale, however you think best works. Okay.
Definitely an 11 out of 10.
11 out of 10.
Yes.
11 out of 10.
Stars.
Okay.
We can go with stars. 11
Fantastic.
out of 10 stars. 11 out of 10 points. You know, you always see that on social media. 10 out of 10 would recommend. This is an 11 out of 10 would recommend. 11 out of 10. And it's not because it's the most well-written. It's not because it's a really sparkly version of based on a true story. I mean, the reason that I rate that book so high, I don't know that everyone else who reads it will give it an 11 out of 10. In fact, I've looked online and it definitely doesn't have an 11 out of 10. I mean, some people still, even though this man's dying, they still get picky and they're like, this could have flowed better, or, you know, something else. And I'm like, guys, he's just writing the story of his life and it's for his kids. The reason that I give it an 11 out of 10 is not because of what anyone else thinks, because I don't care what they think. This book shaped who I am. The paradigms that I've gained from this book, the perspectives that I've seen from this book have shaped who I am. And I mean, I'm definitely an 11 out of 10. So I owe a good chunk of that to this book. It's not how well this book is, it's what it did for me in my life.
Right.
Is the reason that I would rate it an 11 out of 10.
Okay. I fully accept that.
Oh, you better, because if not, you'd be wrong. Just kidding.
When you say, like, somebody didn't give it an 11 out of 10 because it could have flowed better, and you're like, well, it's just the story of his life. There are sometimes I think, I wish my life flowed a little better, you know?
No, honestly, it's true. And I'm sure Randy, you know, like...
Oh, gosh, yeah. Yeah. All right, so the last question I have is,
yes,
who would you recommend this book to? What kind of person do you think would get a lot out of it?
You mean other than everyone?
Other than everyone.
Well, okay. Everyone should read it, but I do think that there are different points in your life that it will affect you more intensely, I suppose.
Right, yeah.
For me, I heard The Last Lecture in a class, in a high school class, as I was going through some pretty challenging times in my life. My parents were divorcing. My best friend was going down a very dangerous road. I had an ex-boyfriend who was terrible. I mean, for a high schooler, I was going through some pretty tough crap. And so to listen to that lecture and see this guy who's going through some pretty tough crap turn it around and leave a legacy from it was empowering for sure. And it wasn't until a few years later that I ended up finding the book and reading it. And it became even more powerful to me because it was kind of my rule book, you know, that I can revert back to when I felt lost. And I was like, look, let's go back to the concepts in this book. Are you in harmony with those principles, those perspectives that you had before as a 15-year-old girl reading this or watching the YouTube video?
Right.
And so, honestly, I believe that it's aimed towards his children. That was the head fake, but his children are just symbolic of people who are missing something from their life. They're going to be missing their father, and they're going to revert back to this whenever they miss him. And so I feel like when you're feeling lost or like you're missing something or you don't feel like you're on the right track to achieving your dreams, read it. Read The Last Lecture and feel empowered, or maybe gain a new perspective, or focus on a different goal that's in the book, or it even gives you that time to reflect and think about what your dreams are and get back in alignment with those. And so that is definitely the type of person that should be reading that book, is somebody who's needing to either figure out what their dreams are, or they've already figured them out and they just need a little nudge to go chase them, or a little hope to get back in the game.
So what you're saying is before reading this book, you should ask yourself, am I in the mental headspace where I could hear something that could potentially hurt me? And regardless of the answer,
exactly.
I should read the book.
Well, I mean, they didn't say growing was painless. So.
Right. Well, Jade, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, for being the first interview on the
Thank you for having me. I am honored. I mean, first the worst, so sorry for anybody listening to this if it's just been terrible, but I've had fun.
No,
so.
it's been fun for me, and I hope, if anybody's listening, that they're enjoying it. Just a couple of housekeeping things. I'm probably going to share this podcast on Twitter, and so if you want to follow the podcast, you can find us at Left on Red Books. I'm also on Goodreads, and I'll probably put like a short version of your review of the last lecture on Goodreads and on Instagram as well. So trying to get out there on the social medias.
Follow it, you guys. It will change your life.
Yeah. So
or get you more interested in reading, or
at the very least. So this has been a fantastic time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.